Hello everyone, very good afternoon to all of you. How's everyone doing? Anmol, hello. Sai Haran, Ramveer, Sakhi, good to see all of you. Aditya, how are you doing? As promised, it has been barely 1.5 to 2 hours since day one of the symbiosis law aptitude test has happened. And as promised, we are immediately bringing you the analysis, which is based primarily on a little bit of memory, and we had some of the members from our team also have put in a lot of hard work in trying to figure out the nature of questions, and we've had so many conversations with the students who have appeared for the paper. So we will very quickly take a look at some of the important and interesting questions, right, that actually happened. सर ये क्लास स्लैट के लिए है. स्लैट आज हुआ है. Today we had the examination for the SLAT examination happened today itself on day one from 10 to 11:30 approximately. The examination continued, right, from 10:30 to 11:30 was the actual slot, and we immediately jumped into our preparation and in terms of our analysis of what the paper really looks like, right? Today, of course, was the first day of the SLAT examination, and it is of course conducted by the Symbiosis International University, right, for the undergraduate course. For the undergraduate course, that is the BALLB and the BBALLB and those questions. And in our educated opinion, the level of the question paper was reasonably moderate. It was not very difficult, right? Simbi usually also doesn't give extremely difficult question papers. And let us also jump into the memory based questions that we have been able to figure out in terms of legal reasoning as well as general knowledge, right? The new structure, of course, before we actually jump into the questions, the new structure is basically 60 questions, right? 60 questions from which you had to answer answer all the questions, and it's a simple distribution of 20% each in terms of all the sections. There's GK, analytical reasoning, RC, legal reasoning, and of course logical reasoning. 12 questions each, everyone. Let us get started with the GK section. I'm sure some of you who gave the paper are very excited to see whether your answers are right or not, and those of you who have your examinations tomorrow and day after, as I can see on the chat box, right, someone is saying I'm very stressed for tomorrow. Abhilash bhai, stress for tomorrow, don't worry. अभी आप ये क्वेश्चन पेपर देख के भी आपको कुछ ना कुछ आइडिया बनने लगेगा, like not, they're of course not going to repeat the questions, but at least you'll get an idea about the kind of questions that are being asked, right, that are being asked. Consider the following statement about the World Sustainable Development Summit. The World Sustainable Development Summit, right? It is the annual flagship event of the Niti Aayog. Is it the annual flagship event of the Niti Aayog? It is definitely not, right? It was earlier known as the Delhi Sustainable Development Summit is absolutely correct, and therefore option B in this case is the precise and absolute correct answer, right? The solution is that the World Sustainable Development Summit is the annual flagship event of the Energy and Resource Institute, right? The Energy and Resource Institute. So it is not of the Niti Aayog, which is one of the options, right? It is not of the Niti Aayog. So therefore option A is incorrect in that situation, right? Now, question number 2. Who authored the book? Waiting for a Visa? Waiting for a Visa, very popular book by the father of the Indian Constitution, the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly? Dr. Baba Saheb Bhim Rao Ambedkar is the correct answer. Waiting for a Visa is a 20-page autobiographical life story of B.R. Ambedkar, written in the period 1935-36. It consists of reminiscences drawn by Dr. Ambedkar related to his experiences with untouchability. So remember, that is the correct answer. That is the correct answer in this case. Okay, moving on. Shahid Dweep. So we've had three islands. We've had three islands in the Andaman and Nicobar region, right, which have been renamed. There is the Swaraj Dweep. There is the Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Island as well, which has been, again, there is a new name that has been given, which is the Netaji Subhash Bose Island. The correct answer for Shahid Dweep is, of course, Neil Island, right? And the other two are Ross Island, which has been renamed as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Island, and of course Havelock Island, which has been renamed as Swaraj Dweep, right? Ross Island, Neil Island, and Havelock Island. So Ross Island is Subhash Chandra Bose Island, Neil Island is Shahid Dweep, and of course Havelock Island will be renamed as Swaraj Dweep. So guys, did you get all of these answers right? Did you get all of these answers right is the question, right? Sir, weren't options given? Options were given, but we don't have the exact questions, right? This is based on some of the discussions and based on some people who gave the question paper, right? But we don't have the exact, because the Symbiosis has not actually released the question paper, right? Symbiosis has not released the question paper, so we don't necessarily have all the options very, very specifically. Right, so it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi, of course, and during his visit to Port Blair in December 2018, guys, more than 80 people watching, and we have put such a crash course kind of an effort to bring you the exact questions based on all of these discussions that we've been having. But I see that our hard work is not being appreciated, because 80 people watching and only 17 likes. Only 17 likes is very disappointing to see. Okay, थोड़ा सा यहाँ प्यार मोहब्बत भी बढ़ना चाहिए. At least 50 likes. I think before we come to the next question itself, I would think we should hit 50 likes very, very quickly. Okay, which is the social worker fondly known as Manji of Ladakh? Manji of Ladakh. So we had this famous person, Dasrath Manji. I don't know if you've seen the movie Manji the Mountain Man and so on as well, based on Dasrath Manji's life, right? Dasrath Manji's life. So Dasrath Manji, of course, had broken down an entire mountain and sort of made a road out of it and so on. This person also constructed 38 kilometers of road, right? And in that construction, at the end of the day, this person became known as the Manji of Ladakh, because Dasrath Manji is from Bihar, right? Dasrath Manji, the original Manji, the mountain man, is from Bihar. And the correct answer here is Sultrim Chonjor, right? Who is a very old person, 75-year-old person, fondly known as Mimi Chonjor, who comes from the remote village of Stongde in the Zanskar Valley of Ladakh. From May 2014 to 2017, he single-handedly led efforts to construct a 38-kilometer stretch of road from Ramjak, an inhabited area of the Jammu and Kashmir side of the Shinkula Pass, to the Kargyat village, the first properly inhabited village in the Zanskar region. Spending rupees 57 lakhs from his own pocket after dipping into his life savings and selling his ancestral property, purchasing a JCB machine, right? And ultimately achieving, and therefore became known as Manji the Mountain Man, right? Saif as a Nawazuddin Siddiqui was, yes, Dasrath Manji ka character was played by Nawazuddin Siddiqui, of course, played by Nawazuddin Siddiqui. Okay, according to the Eurostat report 2020, which country is the largest trading partner of the European Union, the largest trading partner of the European Union. Well, I mean, one of the largest trading partners of pretty much all the countries these days is, of course, China. It is, of course, China. And China has become the largest trading partner in 2020, where the imports jumped by 5.6%. The European Union has also witnessed a high trade volume with the rest of the world in December 2020 as well. China became the main trade partner, with exports and imports both increasing despite the COVID-19 pandemic, right? It's, well, I don't know, sometimes I get the feeling, you know, maybe it is not in spite, but sort of because of the COVID pandemic that China became China, and to you know, so many extents and so on. But yes, that's what the current situation is, right? Okay. Who was recently in the news for translating Satyajit Ray's book, Another Dozen Stories? Another Dozen Stories from Bengali to English. Who is the person who did the translation? It is Indrani Majumdar. It is, the correct answer is Indrani Majumdar. And of course, Satyajit Ray has won the Lifetime Achievement Award for Oscar as well. One of the greatest filmmakers and writers of our times, right? And on the occasion of Ray's birth centenary, 100 years of Satyajit Ray's birth, 2 new books by the author was released. Another Dozen Stories is translated from Bengali to English by Indrani Majumdar and was made public on May 2nd, 2021, which is the 100th birth anniversary of the legend that is Satyajit Ray, right? Ekla Chalo Re and all of those very, very famous statements and so on, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about, had read about, and so on. Okay, question number 7. Question number 7, with respect to the recently released Tiger Status Report of India. Another interesting question in terms of the exam that just happened, right? We are looking at, those of you who've just joined us here on YouTube, we are looking at the actual questions, right? We are looking at the actual questions that came, right? Actual questions that came in the Symbiosis exam that had happened just a couple of hours back, just about 3 hours back, right? And we're trying to look at the correct answers. We've done our research and tried to find out all the right answers, right? So therefore, I would request all of you to please drop us a like as well, right? Simply because of nothing else but the fact that we are able to bring you all of these questions. We're able to bring you all of these questions, right? Okay. Which of the following is correct? India accounts for 70% of the world's tigers is absolutely correct. Karnataka has the maximum number of tigers. That is not correct. That is, of course, not correct. Madhya Pradesh, right? Madhya Pradesh is the state which has the maximum number of tigers. Karnataka is actually ranked 2, right? So it's not that it's far behind, but number 1 is Madhya Pradesh. And of course, the largest contiguous tiger population in the world, the largest contiguous tiger population in the world is not Sundarbans, which is in West Bengal, right? It is not in Sundarbans, but it is in the Western Ghats. It is in the Western Ghats, right? India now accounts for 70%. So statement number 1 is correct. Statement number 2 is incorrect because it is Madhya Pradesh, right? And the largest contiguous zone is not Sundarbans in Bengal. It is the Western Ghats. Okay. Which country? Okay, this was all over the newspaper. So I'm sure most of you, definitely got this answer absolutely correct. In fact, this country's vaccine for human beings has just about reached in Lucknow. In fact, I'm going to get this country's vaccine on Monday. My waiting period is sort of finally over because I really didn't want to take Covishield or Covaxin and so on, but I am looking forward to which country's vaccine. It is, of course, Sputnik 5 is Russia's vaccine, but they also released the world's first animal vaccine, right? They also released the world's first animal vaccine for coronavirus, right? Rossel Rosselkhosnadzor is their regulatory body kind of thing, and the name of the vaccine was Carnivac, right? So Covaxin or so on. This is Carnivac, right? Carnivac Cov is the world's first animal vaccine for coronavirus, right? So I hope everybody marked this answer right. क्यों सर कोविशील्ड क्यों नहीं? अरे ऐसे ही पता नहीं, थोड़ा आगे पीछे होते होते I thought I'll just go with Sputnik. So yeah, that's what this is. And sir, in the 12 p.m. session, we were told a PDF of the paper will be shared. How do we access that? We are trying to work on it because we don't have all the options and all of those things, right? But we are trying to come out with it, right? And in any case, hopefully, very quickly, the Symbiosis as an institution also may be releasing it pretty soon. If not, we will try to provide it as soon as possible. We will try to provide it as soon as possible. Guys, thank you guys. We've hit the half century in terms of the number of likes, but of course it's a little sort of, I don't know, discouraging is probably not the right word, but I would expect, right? I would expect that you guys would show us just a little more support, right? Sir, cut off बताओ बस आप, बिल्कुल cut off भी बताया जाएगा. Rishika is in Lucknow. Absolutely Rishika, I am definitely in Lucknow. I mean, that's where I live, is what I would like to sort of point out. Right, okay guys, we will get started with the legal section, and I'll wait for 60 likes before I go to question number 1. We're already at 58. बस 2 और like, थोड़ा सा आप लोग भी सहयोग करेंगे तो मैं भी थोड़ा motivated feel करूंगा, right? Okay, we are at 60 likes. Let's go. Question number 1. Mr. Sam had a black Labrador who's 5 years old. One fine day he left his dog unattended. Meanwhile, Bruno, who was Mr. Sam's neighbor, started throwing stones at Justice, right? That is the black Labrador, right? That is the black Labrador. Justice got furious and started running. As a result, a woman and a child were in danger. Okay. A police SWAT saw the situation. This is, please pardon the typographical error. I'll just try to correct this as quickly as possible. Of course, you guys will have to excuse us because there's just a major speed challenge when we were trying to get this sorted out just for you guys, right? Saw the situation, right? Saw the situation and came to save the woman and child, but meanwhile he got injured. Okay. The policeman demanded damages from Mr. Sam. The policeman demanded damages from Mr. Sam. Can the policeman recover damages in this case? Can the policeman recover damages in this case? I would think the answer should be yes, right? The policeman can recover because Mr. Sam left the dog unattended, right? Justice, the black Labrador, was left unattended, and therefore I would believe that there is liability, and option D, Delhi, is probably the best answer in this case. Okay, let's move on to question number 2. Child labor is strictly prohibited and punished in places of hazardous employment, right? So this is directly derived from fundamental rights, the right against exploitation, right? If you look at the articles 23, 24, we have directly provisions which provide for these protections, right? Raju, a 12 years old boy, was the only child of his parents. He was the only child of his parents. They both were daily wage earners, garibi. Okay. One day they both fell ill and there was nothing to eat at their homes, and the tragedy continues. Raju asked the nearby factory owner Ramesh Bhai, having firecrackers manufacturing unit, to provide work at his factory. So is this a hazardous employment? Is this hazardous employment or not? it is definitely hazardous employment in this case, right? Firecrackers manufacturing industry is a hazardous employment, and in this case, therefore, option C, the nearby factory owner Ramesh Bhai will be prosecuted for committing the offense of child labor. It doesn't matter that the child and the child's family, they were all struck with tragedy, and poverty was a challenge and existential reality in their lives and so on. ठीक है, but यहाँ पर तो basically then you are also exploiting the poor person, right? The poor child, and you will definitely be prosecuted. Option C is spot on, the right answer. Okay, सब तो ये नीचे रखकर चीटिंग कर सकते हैं क्या? अरे ये क्या डिस्कशन हो रहा है? अलग डिस्कशन हो रहा है यहाँ पर चैट बॉक्स में, मैं देख रहा हूँ. Sir, how many marks does SLAT contain for legal? 12 marks. Sir, cutoff क्या होगा आपके according? I believe that the cutoff, right? I believe that the cutoff should be, for if you're looking at Symbiosis Pune, I think it should definitely be in the early 50s or in and around 50 perhaps, right? But बहुत नीचे तो नहीं जाने वाला है, बहुत नीचे नहीं जाने वाला है. Most of the questions were kind of pretty reasonable, so to say. Okay, more than 100 people watching. Welcome everyone. We are doing actual questions from the Symbiosis paper that just happened. Right, we're trying to look at as many questions as we can, figure out exact questions with the exact options, right? And some of the exact options as well we have figured out, right? So do show us some love while we are at it. Do show us a little bit of support, right? And just drop us a like. That will make all of our day as well. So a lot of people from our team are also watching, people who have put in so much hard work in doing the research for the GK questions, trying to find out the answers for the legal questions, right? Finding out explanations for the GK questions. Big shout out to Vanshaj and Aman, Vanshaj Saxena and Aman Prakash, who've been working like at lightning speed, trying to bring all of you these specific answers and so on, right? So show them, if nothing else, show them a little bit of support, and let's go to 100 likes so that I can call them after the session and tell them, देखो भाई बच्चों को आपकी मेहनत बहुत बढ़िया लगी, and they want you to continue working this way and bringing all the questions and so on. Okay, A, while walking on a street, thrust his hand in B's pocket for stealing valuables, but the pocket was empty. Right? So now in this case, will he be liable for theft? No. But did he try? Did he try to commit theft or not? Yes, of course he tried to commit theft, and therefore option C, right? Therefore option C, A is guilty of attempt to commit theft. A is guilty of attempt to commit theft, right? Okay. Question number 4. Okay, question number 4. Again, this was a pretty straightforward question, and I'm sure anyone who gave the question paper would definitely know that this was a pretty easy question, right? Necessity is of course a valid defense, right? Necessity is of course a valid defense, right? Now in this case, Manu is a law-abiding citizen of the country and wanted to weed out corruption from the Indian society. Okay, one day he confronted with an official who was taking a bribe. So Manu decided to teach him a lesson. Okay, Gabbar is back type ka, right? Manu decided to teach him a lesson and punched him. Okay, pinched नहीं है यहाँ पर. Again, इस type के बहुत छोटे errors अगर कहीं हो रहे हैं, you guys have to probably just sort of assume. Can he claim the defense of necessity? Was there any necessity to actually punch the person? Could you not simply complain for bribe, proceed under the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988? There are many other ways to deal with this kind of situation. If that's not what you're doing, you're going in and punching people, that's just tragic. Manu को defense मिलेगा? नहीं. मनुवाद से आजादी चाहिए, Kanhaiya Kumar. This is of course he cannot plead the defense. Cannot plead the defense. There was no necessity to act in the manner that he actually acted. Right. So option C is definitely the correct answer in this case. Okay. Which one of the following is the correct sequence with reference to a valid contract? So what comes first? Obviously offer is the beginning point. Offer is the beginning point. Right now, if we had to look at option B, right, which says offer and then competence. No. Even if we say competence must exist, right? Competence obviously is before the offer, right? So option B becomes wrong. Option C is by default wrong. Offer auction just doesn't mean anything, right? What is the correct sequence? Option A. Offer, acceptance, valid consideration, right, will lead to an agreement. And any agreement, ultimately any agreement that is enforceable by law, that's the final rule, right? Any agreement that is enforceable by law is a contract. Okay, that's what the logic is. So therefore, if we are looking at any agreement that is enforceable by law, offer, acceptance, valid consideration, then it becomes an agreement, and when the agreement is enforceable by law, it becomes a contract, right? So correct sequence is option A. Did you guys do option A? Gradeup, how can I know where is my CLAT 2021 exam center in Lucknow? It will be there in your admit card. You will be assigned a specific center. Rishika, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay, guys, we are so close to 100 likes. We're so close to 100 likes and 117 people are watching. 117 people are watching. 119 people are watching. Let's get to that elusive triple digit number in terms of the number of likes as well, right? Guys, please do it. Mistake of fact is excusable, but mistake of law is not. Mistake of fact is a valid defense, right? But mistake or ignorance of law, right? You can't commit murder and say, अरे मुझे law नहीं पता था. कोई बात नहीं, जज साहब को law पता है, right? So ignorance of law or mistake of law is not a defense. Suraj was standing in his balcony at night. Suraj was standing in his balcony at night and saw someone climbing on their wall. He got afraid and thinking him to be a thief, hit him with a stick and he fell down. Okay. Later on, it was revealed that it was his neighbor who was trying to pick clothes which were taken by wind on Suraj's wall, right? So is this a reasonable situation? Is this a reasonable situation? Can you directly, should you not at least bother to ask, have a conversation, you know, and then go ahead and hit somebody, right? You can, of course, there is an exercise of right to private defense, right? Of course, there is a right to private defense which exists, but your right to private defense must be exercised in a reasonable manner, right? It must be exercised in a reasonable manner. So if it is unreasonable in this case, because you didn't bother checking, you didn't bother asking, you didn't simply went ahead and hit another person with a stick, seems a little disproportional, right? So Suraj is liable for negligence. Suraj is liable for negligence in this situation, right? Is liable for negligence in this situation. Guys, thank you very much. I just want to take a moment here, right? Thank you very much, guys. More than 100 likes we have come to, but it's almost 140 people watching as well. So those of you who have not pressed the like button, please do that while we come to what I think was a very tricky question. I think the only legal question where there's, I think, quite a bit of legal knowledge, you know, which became relevant at least, was this was this particular question. Now, refusal to issue a writ of habeas corpus under Article 226, which is with the High Court, right? And habeas corpus is one of the 5 writs. Habeas corpus is one of the 5 writs which is which can be filed under Article 226 as well as under Article 32, right? Now, if a writ under 226 is rejected, can you still file a writ under 32, particularly if it is habeas corpus? Then the answer is definitely yes. Okay, so assertion is absolutely true. You can file a writ of habeas corpus. You can file a writ of habeas corpus because every single day, right? Today, if I am unlawfully detained and unlawfully arrested, right? If I am unlawfully arrested, tomorrow, if my arrest continues, that is itself a new case kind of a thing. So you can go to 226, go to the High Court. Even if your case is dismissed, you can still go to the Supreme Court. Now, habeas corpus writ is an exception. Habeas corpus writ is an exception to the case of, right? To the case of habeas corpus, right? To the rule of res judicata. Res judicata basically means that the court's order is final, that the court's order is binding, right? So is habeas corpus an exception? Absolutely. Please remember, habeas corpus is definitely an exception. There's a very famous case from 1991, right? Which is this is the specific landmark case here. That is Daryao versus Daryao Singh. That is versus state of UP, right? Where the Supreme Court, and the majority order was by Chief Justice Justice A.M. Ahmadi, where the Supreme Court said habeas corpus is clearly an exception to the rule of res judicata. So both statements are true. Both statements are true, and the reason is also correct, right? The reason is also correct because if and it's a little tricky, so please bear with me. If res judicata was going to be applied, right, on habeas corpus as well, then the only option to go to the Supreme Court would be in appeal and not directly under 32, right? That simply would not have been possible, right? Of course, you could have still gone to the Supreme Court, right? You could have still gone to the Supreme Court. That is not a problem, right? But if you go to the Supreme Court, you would have to go to the Supreme Court under the Supreme Court's appeal powers, right? Appellate jurisdictions. Basically, under appellate jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is what you would have had to go. So in this situation, because you are directly allowed to go, the reason is because res judicata does not apply. So is this the correct application? Is this the correct application? Yes, it is definitely the correct application. Both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. R is the absolute correct explanation of option A, right? Wopsy Creations, sir, your typing is fast. Thank you very much. Corporate lawyers usually have to type pretty fast in any case, right? It has to happen pretty okay. Arnav, so please answer my question above. Okay, Arnav, can I find the question? Hot damn, I'm unable to find your question, Arnav. कितने पहले का है? कम से कम 40-50 मैसेज तो मैं देख चुका हूँ. I'm so sorry, Arnav. You'll have to post the question again. I am unable to find it. I marked D. Excellent, Sachin. That's the correct answer in our opinion as well. That's the correct answer in our opinion as well. We are of course going to bring you more of these questions. Right, when will admit card come and how can we take it? I think it will come in a downloadable format, Rishika. I believe it will definitely come in a downloadable format, so do make the most of it and just read all of it very, very carefully. Please do stay connected with us here on Gradeup. We will keep bringing you detailed analysis of each and every one of the questions that we can get our hands on. And of course, when the final question paper comes out, we will be discussing in more detail by looking at the exact specific options, so that you guys also can be 100% sure that what is the correct answer, and you can be 100% sure on how many marks you're actually going to get. And if nothing else, at least you can know what is the correct answer for your future preparation and for your future plans. बस 10 मैसेज ऊपर है सर. अरे मुझे मिल क्यों नहीं रहा है अर्नव? प्लीज आंसर माय क्वेश्चन. ओके, नहीं है भाई अर्नव, आई डिसएग्री. बिकॉज 10 क्या, मैं एटलीस्ट फिर से 20-30 ढूंढ लिया हूँ. एंड I definitely cannot find it. Definitely cannot find it. 10, 5. But in any case, my question, please. Whoopsie. 4 out of 7. Sir, my question. So, cutoff for Maharashtra CET for Maharashtra domicile people. Well, I mean, it will depend ultimately. It will depend ultimately on the difficulty of the question paper, right? But All India के general cutoff से about 7 to 10 marks कम आप मान लीजिए maximum 7 to 10 marks के gap में you should be able to find out the Maharashtra CET का cutoff. So सूरज वाले केस में तो ignorance of fact था. Oh, the wall climbing thing? No. If it was a question of right to private defense, right? If it is a question of right to private defense, then your reaction has to be proportional. Your reaction has to be proportional, and it was not a reasonable or a proportional reaction, Aditya, in this case, because he did not do any reasonable things to try to figure out, right? To try to figure out कि कितना कौन है, कौन चढ़ रहा है, क्या हो रहा है. कुछ भी नहीं किया, सीधा जाके लाठी से ही मारने लगा, right? That is not a reasonable reaction. That is not a reasonable reaction, right? Okay, we will very soon we will try to come out once we have had a little more time to analyze the paper as well. We will very shortly come out with an expected cutoff, not just for Pune but for Pune, Noida, Hyderabad, Nagpur, or for all the symbiosis colleges and the expected cutoffs and so on. We are definitely going to be coming out with a session, and of course for those of you guys who are trying to figure out what exactly is the cutoff, don't worry guys. We have already also, please refer to the session that Pranav sir has already taken, right? This is at around 12 p.m. right? About 12 p.m. was the session, just a couple of hours back. Already we have done one session on it. Once all the papers are done, right, we will have a more comprehensive idea as well, क्योंकि अभी भी और 2 more days, right? 2 more days of examination are still pending, right? So once we have a more holistic idea, we will come out with an even more detailed cutoff, right? But please do look at the session by Pranav sir at 12 p.m. here on the YouTube channel itself. Sir, dal diya question. Okay. Arnav, there's some problem with your chat. I think it's glitched. Maybe the message is too long or something, because I'm not receiving it, and I'm not only checking through the app, but I've actually opened YouTube separately to see if there is a glitch somewhere, but unfortunately I'm still unable to Still unable to find out. So please tell that is looking down okay for solving? Yes, I think it is. I think it is, Kushi. You can, because you can obviously, you might be required to solve something or the other. So it's looking down. You can think by looking upwards, looking down. I mean, that, I think that much is okay. Like how many, you can't literally keep looking at the screen consecutively. I think to some extent it will be acceptable. अब वो हर क्वेश्चन मार्क करने से पहले अगर साइड देखोगे तब तो it just looks fishy, right? But otherwise, right? So please, sir, question will remain the same in the next one. Absolutely not, Parth Sarthi. How is that possible? फिर तो क्वेश्चन सेम ही आ गया, तो अगले 2 दिन में जिनका एग्जाम है वो तो 100% ही रिजल्ट लाएंगे ना, right? So that's definitely not, huh? So anyway, that's that, guys. We'll come back with more and more information as and when the examination keeps happening. Do stay tuned in. Do stay tuned in and make the most of all of this that we are bringing for you. Thank you very much. All the very best to people who have your examination ahead of you tomorrow, day after as well. Have a lovely Saturday ahead of you guys. Bye and see you guys soon.